What's going on YouTube? Listen up, young elder gang. This is Shalonda Lewis. At you with another banger. Please make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video, fam. I hope this video get at least 100,000 likes. In this video, you will find history definitions, scripture information, and best of all, what we Americans have been deprived of from the beginning. The truth, keep in mind, this content used in this video is intended for entertainment, educational, and informational purposes only and does not constitute legal advice. Common and private law cases are complex, and self-representation is highly discouraged by the elites. Seeking legal counsel from a qualified attorney is essential for navigating the legal system and maximizing your chances of success. We will give you the total truth as we best understand it today. Be sure to hit that like button. Young Elder Gang, hit that subscribe button. If you're new to the channel, hit that bell and don't forget to check back with us every day for new content. Hey there, civics students. Today I'm diving into a hot question. Congress versus Constitution. Who really wins? Spoiler alert, it's not Congress. A House Joint Resolution, HJR, is a legislative measure that requires approval from both the House of Representatives and the Senate to become law, similar to a bill, but it is also used to propose amendments to the U.S. Constitution. First off, let's talk about the U.S. Constitution. It's the supreme law of the land, meaning no law or resolution can contradict it. So, what happens if Congress passes a joint resolution that goes against the Constitution? Well, it's simply not valid. Why? Because any legislative action conflicting with the Constitution is void. Now, let's break it down further. The U.S. Constitution's supremacy means that any law contradicting it is unconstitutional. This is where judicial review comes in. The Supreme Court steps in to interpret what the Constitution allows. If a law conflicts, guess what? The Supreme Court can declare it unconstitutional. Congress does have a lot of power to make laws, but it has to play by the rules of the Constitution. According to House Rule 14, Clause 7c, any joint resolution must cite constitutional authority. It's not just about passing laws, it's about passing the right ones. So how does a joint resolution become law? It needs to pass both the House and the Senate first. Then it's off to the president for approval or a veto. If signed, or if Congress overrides the veto, it becomes law. But there's an exception for constitutional amendments. They go to the states for ratification instead of the president. A House Joint Resolution, or HJR, is a legislative measure from the House. It can become law like a bill if passed by both chambers and signed by the president. They're often used for special purposes, like proposing constitutional amendments or addressing emergency appropriations. Now, what's the difference between a House Joint Resolution and a House Resolution? A House Joint Resolution has the full force of law, needing both chambers and the president's signature. A House Resolution, on the other hand, only concerns the House itself and doesn't need Senate or presidential approval. So remember, while Congress can pass laws, the Constitution is the ultimate authority. Any move against it won't stand. The year is 1933. America stands at a crossroads, its fate uncertain, its people battered by forces beyond their control. America is a haunted house, its rooms filled with the ghosts of lost fortunes and the cries of the hungry. Once bustling neighborhoods now echo with silence, and the laughter of children has faded into memory. The Great Depression stalks every family, from city skyscrapers to dust-choked farms. No one is untouched. Suffering seeps into every corner, every home, every heart. Men who once built the nation now stand in breadlines, hollow-eyed. Their pride is gone, replaced by a quiet desperation as they wait for a scrap of hope. Women watch their children starve, powerless. They cradle their little ones, unable to offer comfort, haunted by the emptiness in their eyes. The American dream has curdled into a nightmare. Promises of prosperity have turned to dust, and hope is a rare commodity. The air is thick with fear and failure. Each day brings new uncertainty, and the future feels like a closed door. Shadows stretch from Wall Street where bankers whisper in smoke-filled rooms. Deals are made in secret, far from the eyes of the desperate masses. They are the high priests of a failing religion, gold. Their rituals, once revered, now seem hollow and powerless to stop the collapse. For generations, gold was salvation, the bedrock of wealth. It was the promise that hard work would be rewarded, that savings would be safe. Now that bedrock is cracking. The foundation of trust is eroding, and the ground beneath everyone's feet feels dangerously unstable. Banks fail, one by one, sealing away the people's wealth. Panic spreads as families lose everything overnight, their life savings locked behind cold steel doors. The men inside are not saviors, but gatekeepers of a collapsing kingdom. Their faces are grim, their hands tied by forces they cannot control. In the heartland, farmers watch their fields turn to dust and banks come for their land. Generations of toil are swept away by wind and debt. Foreclosure notices arrive like death sentences. Families gather around kitchen tables, reading the words that will end their way of life. The rules have changed. The money owed is a monster they can't feed. Debts grow larger, and hope grows smaller with every passing day. The gold they were promised has vanished. Empty hands grasp at memories of security but find only loss. The nation is on its knees, praying for a miracle or a monster. Faith is tested and unity is fragile as people search for someone or something to save them. The system is broken. Trust has evaporated. The old certainties are gone, replaced by anxiety and suspicion. People clutch their last dollars, paper that feels worthless. Each bill is a reminder of what's been lost and what little remains. They look to Washington for answers, but the government is paralyzed. Leaders argue and debate, but solutions seem out of reach. A storm of desperation and anger gathers. The streets rumble with unrest, and the air is charged with the sense that something has to break. The country holds its breath, waiting for the final, terrible snap. In this moment of uncertainty, the fate of a nation hangs in the balance. Out of the depths of the Great Depression, when hope seemed lost and the nation's future hung in the balance, a strange and unprecedented decree emerged: House Joint Resolution 192. This wasn't a promise of jobs or food, nor a simple government handout. Instead, it was a fundamental transformation to the very soul of money itself, a change that would ripple through every wallet and every contract in America. Signed into law on June 5, 1933, its impact was nothing short of monstrous, sending shockwaves through the financial system and altering the course of economic history. HJR 192 declared war on the long-held idea that a dollar was a fixed amount of gold, shattering a belief that had anchored the economy for generations. The nation's economic heart was seizing up. Banks were in cardiac arrest, unable to function as panic swept the land. People, gripped by fear, hoarded gold, draining the economy's lifeblood and making recovery seem impossible. The Federal Reserve, bound by the gold standard, couldn't expand the money supply to meet the crisis they had started, leaving the government desperate for solutions. The solution: give the Federal Reserve total control of the American economy. HJR 192 was a desperate attempt to cut the golden noose strangling the bankers' plan, a bold move to break to take total control. It declared all gold clauses in contracts void, erasing the legal right to demand payment in gold and rewriting the rules of finance overnight. For decades, these clauses had protected American people from the dangers of devaluation, ensuring their wealth was safe from inflation. But now, as the dollar's value fell, these same clauses tortured debtors, making it nearly impossible for ordinary Americans to pay what they owed. HJR 192 severed the link between debt and gold, freeing debtors from impossible burdens and changing the nature of contracts forever. Roosevelt had already banned private gold hoarding, taking bold steps to stabilize the economy and restore confidence. Citizens were ordered to turn in their gold for paper money, a move that shocked the nation and marked the end of an era. HJR 192 was the final nail in the coffin. No one could demand payment in gold again, no matter what their contract said. The gold standard was not just lifted, it was shattered, its pieces scattered by the winds of change. The ship of state was now adrift on an unknown sea, its old compass gone, searching for a new direction in a world without gold. The rules of money had changed overnight, leaving Americans to grapple with a new reality and uncertain future. America would never be the same. The legacy of HJR 192 would echo for generations, reshaping the nation's destiny. The order came down: surrender your gold. It was a command that echoed through every city, every small town, and every rural outpost in America. No one was exempt, and the message was clear: the gold in your pocket, your safe, or hidden beneath your floorboards was no longer yours to keep. Radios crackled with urgent voices and newspapers blared the headlines. The command spread like wildfire, reaching every home and business, leaving no one untouched by its gravity. For ordinary people, it felt like a violation, an intrusion into the most private corners of their lives. The gold they had saved, inherited, or earned was suddenly demanded by the government. Gold was more than just metal. It was security, a promise kept for centuries, a tangible link to the past, and a shield against the unknown. To give it up was to surrender a piece of your soul, a part of your family's story, and the hope that your savings would always mean something real. Imagine, a farmer, hands rough from years of toil, digs up a hidden box beneath the earth, heart pounding with dread and resignation. An elderly woman, her fingers trembling, unwraps her last coins, each one a memory of better times, of birthdays, weddings, and hard-won harvests. They hand over their treasures to banks they no longer trust, their eyes filled with suspicion and sorrow, knowing that what they give up may never be returned. In return, they get paper notes, lighter, hollow, no longer a claim on real wealth, but a promise that things would somehow be all right. The gold flowed into government vaults, a forced migration of wealth from millions of hands into the silent, guarded depths of the state. It vanished behind steel doors at the Federal Reserve and Fort Knox, locked away from the very people who once owned it. The nation's tangible wealth was locked away, out of reach, sealed behind barriers that only a select few would ever see again. The people were told it was for their own good, a necessary sacrifice to save the country, to restore faith in the system, to prevent collapse. But to many, it felt like betrayal, a magic trick where the nation's nest egg disappeared before their eyes, leaving only emptiness and confusion. The new system was built not on gold, but on faith. Faith in government, in the Federal Reserve, in the future value of paper, and in promises that could not be weighed or touched. This was a terrifying leap into the unknown, a gamble with the nation's future, and a test of trust that would shape generations. The golden sun had set. A long twilight began, casting uncertainty over every home and every hope. The financial world became a cathedral of shadows and whispers, where secrets and fears mingled in the half-light. Deep in its vaults, the nation's gold sat silent, hidden from its people, a silent witness to a new era. The old system was gone, swept away in a single stunning act of government power. The new one demanded belief in something unseen, in a future that was far from certain. The people had no choice but to hope the promise would hold, to trust that their sacrifice would not be in vain. The age of gold was over. A new chapter had begun, written not in metal but in faith and fragile hope. HJR 192 was legal alchemy. It transmuted the obligation of gold into the flexibility of paper. No debt could now be paid in whatever currency was legal tender. A promise to pay in gold was now satisfied by paper dollars. For people who were broke and poor, it was a miracle, an impossible burden suddenly made bearable. For American, it was state-sanctioned theft. Gold clauses meant to protect against devaluation were rendered meaningless. Vast wealth shifted from borrowers to lenders, not by revolution, but by law. The Supreme Court upheld this power. Congress could change the rules of money. The meaning of a dollar was no longer fixed by metals, but by government and military decree. The transformation was complete. Gold was dead in the pockets of the American people. Long live the paper dollar, and death to poor people having gold. The rules of the game had changed forever. Every trauma spawns ghost stories, and HJR 192 was no exception. In the shadows, conspiracy theories grew. The myth of perpetual debt, the idea that Americans became collateral for national debt. Some claimed your birth certificate was a bond, your identity split into a Strawman corporation. These tales wove a hidden reality, a secret set of rules governing the world. They are the ghost stories of a nation that felt tricked into a new kind of servitude. The sovereign citizen movement is the modern heir to these ghost stories. Sovereign citizen sounds like an oxymoron, but we will save that for another class. Its followers believe HJR 192 turned America into a bankrupt corporation, enslaving its people. They file legal documents, convinced secret words can free them from taxes and laws which are labeled bizarre by the elite. The rabbit hole is deep, offering simple answers to complex problems. But it's a fiction. Courts reject their arguments, and their quest for freedom leads only to fines and jail, because they are dealing with pirates and crooks. They are prisoners of their own terminology by adding citizen onto sovereign. The real chains are made of misunderstanding, not law. Now this is the story they want you to believe. The resolution was not a secret plot, but a desperate tool for survival, or should we say a robbery. The gold standard had become a death sentence in the Depression, since the world bankers wanted control of it. Breaking it was an act of self-preservation. The elite were going to starve them out. Congress had the constitutional power to regulate money. The Supreme Court affirmed it. All the paid-off guys were in place. Some people say HJR 192 created the strawman, or secret bonds. The new system was built on trust in a corrupted government to hold the natural wealth of the American people. It was a massive debt jubilee, sending millions into the chains of debt. Yes, it hurt the American people, but the alternative was total collapse, all set up by the world elite bankers. The corrupt government made plays on the American people to fatten the world elite's pockets. The American people now couldn't buy anything or sell anything. Therefore, they could never own anything. They could now only transfer the debt now called dollar, which is fiat. After HJR 192, America entered the world of fiat money. Fiat money has value because the government says so, not because it's backed by gold. The dollar became a free-floating instrument of public faith. This new system gave government and the Federal Reserve immense power to manage the economy. Flexibility is its strength. Crises can be met with new money. But the risk is inflation. Trust is fragile. If trust breaks, money becomes worthless. We rely on officials to be wise and restrained. This system enabled decades of debt, but the risk always lurks. The power to create money is also the power to destroy it. We have placed that power in the hands of a few to control the many like gods. The castle in the air stands, so long as you believe. The global elite bankers wanted control of American money because the US dollar is the world's primary reserve currency and is widely used in international trade. By controlling the creation and supply of this currency, the bankers have gained immense power to shape global finance, economies, and political outcomes. This control was pursued through various means, with the ultimate goal of manipulating economic conditions for personal or group benefit. Strategic control over monetary policy, influence interest rates, control over American money allowed the elite bankers to influence U.S. interest rates. Lowering rates devalue the dollar, making U.S. exports more competitive internationally. Raising them attract foreign capital, strengthen the dollar, but making exports more expensive. These decisions benefited the bankers' investments by creating predictable shifts in the market. Dictate money supply. By determining the quantity of money in circulation, the bankers created economic booms and busts. Injecting money into the economy drives asset prices up, benefiting the bankers' investments. Removing money caused deflation, allowing the banker to acquire devalued assets at a discount. Financial market manipulation. Steer capital flows. The ability to manipulate the dollar's value and influence interest rates was used to direct the flow of capital around the globe. By strengthening or weakening the dollar, the banker made U.S. markets more or less attractive to foreign investment. This destabilizes specific regions or industries to create new investment opportunities. Profit from instability. The global bankers engineered crises by creating financial bubbles through loose monetary policy and then bursting them with tight policies. In this scenario, the banker profited by betting against the market before a collapse and then buying up distressed assets afterward. Political influence and leverage. Weapons of sanctions. Because most international transactions are denominated in dollars, controlling the currency would give the bankers vast leverage over governments. In conjunction with political actors, the bankers effectively enforce sanctions against entire countries by limiting their ability to transact in the global system. Fund political allies. The control over a country's money supply was used to create capital for funding political campaigns or financing specific initiatives that benefit the banker and their associates. This allowed them to consolidate influence and ensure that regulations and policies favor their financial interests. Economic advantage, global influence through currency status. The US dollar's role as the primary global reserve currency provides significant economic advantages. It allows the United States to have greater influence in international finance and trade as the world banker main game. Impact on other economies. Fluctuations in the value of the US dollar made ripple effects on other economies around the world, influencing trade balances and investment flows. Was HJR 192 salvation or enslavement? It's a story with no clear hero, but for sure villains. The gold standard had become a straitjacket for anyone who stood up against the world bankers and the Templars. Once they turned over their gold, the elites gave the nation room to breathe. The dollar was devalued, banks recapitalized, the economy revived, now all under the control of the world private-owned shareholders and bankers. But now you live in a system of perpetual debt, our savings eroded by inflation. We've traded gold security for the promises of a powerful authority. Our freedom depends on their wisdom. HJR 192 locked away the nation's gold and replaced it with a ghost, the fiat dollar. That ghost built a superpower, but it exists only as long as we believe. The question remains, what happens when the lies fades and the truth unfold? That's it for today's Civic Insights. Thanks for tuning in and see y'all next time.